Here we go, people. Little AP test review here. All right. What's the average rate of change from 0 to 4 for x cubed minus 2x squared plus 6? How would we go about doing this?
So you have to do the derivatives?
We will not on this one. Average rate of change. Put the number in. So at f of 0, you get 0 cubed plus minus 0 plus 6, which is 6. F of 4 is 4 to the third minus 2 times 4 squared plus 6, which is 64 minus 32, which is 32 plus 6, which is 38. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So then, how do you find average rate of change? Slope formula, 38 minus 6 over 4 minus 0, which is 32 over 4, which is 8. Average rate of change. What's the instantaneous rate of change at x equals 4 for that same function? Then what do you do for this one?
Derivative.
The derivative. Find the derivative of this, which is 3x squared minus 4x. And then you find that's what this is. So then you find it at 4. So it's 3 times 4 squared minus 4 times 4, or that's 16 times 3 is what, 48? Minus 16 is 32. So the slope at 4 is 32 because the derivative is the slope. How do you find the average rate of change from this to all these different values?
Slow. Are they normally in like a chart?
They'll be in a chart. These will be in a chart. So from negative 2 to this, so from here to here, what's your change in y? So it'd be 2 minus 5 over negative 2 minus the negative 2. Oh, it's negative 5. So it's 7 over 0, which is undefined. So then at negative 1, so you go 2 plus 1 over negative 2 plus 1, which is 3 over negative 1, which is negative 3. And then you do them for the others. Do I need to do that, or are we good? Okay, average rate of change. Is this function continuous and differentiable at 1? Is it continuous at 1? How do we figure out if it's continuous? Plug in 1. Up here, if we plug in 1, we get 1 plus 2, which is 3. Down here, if we plug in 1, we get 4 minus 1, which is 3. Is it continuous? Yes. Is it differentiable? Well, what's the first derivative of that? 2x plus 2. What's the first derivative of this? Just plain simple 4. So the slope on this one is 4. Because y equals mx plus b, you can figure out, yeah, 4 is the slope. If you put in a 1 here, you get 2 plus 2, which is 4. Is the derivative the same? Yes. So the answer is yes. It's continuous and differentiable at 1. Okay, because it meets at the same point and it has the same derivative. So it has the same slope. So it's both continuous and differentiable there. Looking at this line, what's the value of the first derivative at 2? What? Zero. 0? No. Yep. Why? The slope of this line. Wait. Okay. Given the function and its tangent line at f of 2 is this, yeah. The slope is 2.
We were.
Okay?
Ass? You're not funny. Lindsay's being rude.
Wow. What's the equation of the tangent line for this? We have to do a couple different steps here. We have to find f of 2 to find our y value. So it's 3 times 2 squared minus 11 times 2 plus 4, which is 12 minus 22 plus 4, which is negative 10 plus 4. What's negative 10 plus 4? So our ordered pair that we're using is 2, negative 6. Then we need to find the slope. How do we find the slope? Find the first derivative at 2. First of all, we should find the first derivative, so that should be an x there. First derivative of that is what? 6x minus 11 using the power rule. So if we find the first derivative at 2, we get 12 minus 11, which is 1. My slope is 1. My point is that. Put in point slope form. Y plus 6 equals 1 times x minus 2. Y plus 6 equals x minus 2. Y equals x minus 8. Ta-da. Which one has the greatest slope? So C has the largest derivative because it has the most positive slope.
I don't understand how A is a
A,
negative. Going up.
no. A has a y value of negative 2.
That's not the slope.
B has a y value of negative 1. C has a y value of 0.7. That's their y value. The slope of A looks to be 0. The slope of B is probably 1. The slope of C is probably 2. So C would be the greatest.
But what about if it was going down? Then it would still be like.
It would be, if it was,
-1 is bigger than -2.
if this was D and E, which one has the greatest slope? D, E, or A? A does, because that 0 is bigger than negative 2 or negative 1. What's the approximation for that slope? What I would do is just take these two numbers right here. Now, if it was 4.6 on this side and 4.5 or 4.4 on this side, then I would use 4.6 and 4.4. But because it's here, use the closest to. So this would be 19.9 minus 19.6 over 4.6 minus 4.5, which is 0.3 over 0.1, which is 3, right? Where is this function decreasing? Where is this function 3x cubed minus 2x squared plus 5x minus 4 decreasing? I would say between 2 and 4. Because I think this is at 2 and this is at 4. They're x values. And it's increasing from negative infinity to 2 and from 2 to infinity.
Like algebra 2 all over again.
Yeah.
That's traumatic.
What's the first derivative of this thing? Well, the first thing you would do is change this into this, okay? And then take the derivative of it. What's the first derivative of 3 halves x to the 2/3? Well, what's 2/3 of 3 halves? 1. Arithmetic there.
Yeah, I don't know that stuff.
1 x to the what power? Negative 1/3. And then multiply these minus 1/10 x to the what power? Negative 4/5. And then this one plus 8x to the negative 3rd. Now, it's a multiple choice test. So what might happen? Yes. So what might happen is they might not have these listed as negative exponents. So if they're not listed as negative exponents, well, how would they be listed? 1 over x to the 1/3 minus 1 over 10x to the 4/5 plus 8 over x to the 3rd. But these might not be written this way.
They might be cube root.
The cube root of x minus the 5th root of x to the 4th. So be ready for however it's written. Okay? Find the first derivative of the ln of x over x. Well, what rule would you use for this? The quotient rule. So, how do you do the quotient rule? The bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom over the bottom squared. Well, x times 1 over x is just 1. ln of x times 1 is ln of x over x squared. What does it tell us to do here?
I was so confused on the assignment.
Are we going to get to use our unit circles?
You can use the unit circle and you can use the packet of formulas.
So you want to find the derivative of that sentence, right? So it's like negative sign. Is it negative
Your
sign
formula
of pi over
packet.
6? I don't know. Negative 1/2. No, this one. No,
Cosine.
negative
Is
sign
y2 minus
of
y1
pi over
x
6.
over x2 minus x. Cosine is the x of pi over 6.
So the first derivative of cosine is negative sine. So the first derivative at pi over 6 is negative sine of pi over 6.
How am I supposed to know what negative sign of pi over 6?
So then what you do is you take the sine at pi over 6, you look on your unit circle, and at pi over 6 it's a y value, which is 1/2. So your answer is negative 1/2.
What if when they're confusing like cosecant and secant, you just put 1 over sine or 1 over cosine?
Yeah.
And then look at your unit circle.
Find the first derivative at 0 if f of x equals 4 cosine of x plus 3e to the x minus x squared e to the x. All right. What's the first derivative of 4 cosine of x? What's the first derivative of 3e to the x? 3e to the x. What's the first derivative of this thing? What rule do we use? Product rule. So negative x squared. What's the first derivative of e to the x? E to the x. Plus e to the x times the first derivative of negative x squared. Negative 2x. So it is negative 4 sine of 0 plus 3e to the 0 minus 0 squared e to the 0 plus e to the 0 times negative 2 times 0. So these two are both 0. E to the 0 equals 1. So this is 3. What's a sign at 0? 0. So the answer is 3. Yep. Cosine is x, sine is y. What rule will you use on this one? Quotient rule. X minus 5 times the first derivative of the numerator, which is 2x plus 2 minus x squared plus 2x minus 3 times 1 over x minus 5 squared. But the answer won't look like that. It'll be simplified. So how do we simplify this? FOIL the first one. 2x squared. Outers is 2x. Inners is negative 10x. So minus 8x minus 10. And then from there we have to subtract x squared plus 2x minus 3. So we have to distribute the negative sign. So then 2x squared minus x squared is x squared. Negative 8x plus negative 2x is negative 10x. Negative 10 plus 3 is negative 7. Okay, next one. There's multiple ways of doing this one. There's actually a super easy way of doing this one, or a more difficult way of doing this one. But of course, knowing me, I want to do the difficult way first. Let's use the product rule here. What's the product rule going to give us? Well, it'll be the sine of x. What's the first derivative of the cotangent of x? Negative cosecant squared of x plus the cotangent of x times the cosine of x. Well, what happens here is this is sine of x over negative sine squared of x plus cosine of x over sine of x times cosine of x. So this is negative 1 over sine of x plus cosine of x over cosine squared of x over sine of x, which is cosine squared of x minus 1 over sine of x. What's cosine squared of x minus 1? Not quite. Negative sine squared, which is negative 1. Now you're going, boy, that was difficult. Well, guess what we can do? We could take sine of x times cosine of x over sine of x. That's not sine squared on the bottom. Just sine on the bottom, so it's negative sine of x. Okay. So what we can do is change cotangent, before we take the derivative, change cotangent to cosine over sine. Cancel. So we're really taking the derivative of the cosine of x, which is negative sine of x. And I'll say, what did I say in class when we reviewed?
I'll remember this.
Okay, sounds good.
That would be just enough. Just say, oh, remember when you do it early on in the question?
Maybe you should simplify first before you
That's
do
what
it.
I'd say.
Okay. Okay, so that's what your AP test will look like. You have the rest of the time to work on Khan Academy test or catch up stuff or do whatever you needed to do because you lost out of your study hall this morning.
Thank you. Okay, I made this nice pencil.